Get started here. Thank you very much, everybody, for being with us tonight. We are so happy to be able to do this to celebrate International Women's Day by highlighting some of the amazing Canadian women who are making an impact on the game of baseball in so many different aspects, on the field, behind the scenes. And we have some of those amazing people with us tonight who we will be introducing to you shortly. Before we begin, we acknowledge that the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum is located on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples. This area is within the boundaries covered by Treaty 29, known as the Huron Tract Purchase, and is protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, many Indigenous peoples continue to call this land home and act as its stewards, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on this territory. I'll be one of your hosts this evening. My name is Lindsay. I'm the Care of Collections and Public Engagement Supervisor at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. And I'm thrilled to be joined by my co-host this evening, Stephanie. Steph, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Steph. I'm the marketing coordinator for Rawlings Canada. I'm proud and excited to be here with all of you. It is a privilege to be a woman in baseball, and it's a privilege to be with all of you tonight. Thank you so much. So I get to explain the rules of the game tonight, which I don't always get to do. So this is great. Please make sure your microphones stay turned off for the entire panel tonight. We are going to introduce all of our special guests, and we're going to give them some panel questions and questions from the audience as well. The YouTube stream will be on the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum's YouTube channel within the next couple of days or so. And make sure that you stick around until the end because we are giving away this gorgeous Rawlings glove from Rawlings Canada. So stick around until the end. And we also have a special surprise gift package to give away. Let's play ball.
All right. So before we begin, unfortunately, Andrea Goldstein, who is the VP of Communication with the Blue Jays, called in sick this evening. So she was unable to join us. We're very sorry to hear that she can't be here, but we wish her all the best for a speedy recovery. I'd now like to pass things over to Holly Lapierre, who is representing the board of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame this evening.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I get the privilege of introducing our amazing panel. So I'm going to start with Ellen Harrigan, who is entering her 44th year in professional baseball. She started when she was 3, just so everybody knows, 3. And she's in her 26th season with the Dodgers and is their vice president of baseball administration. Amazing, Ellen, amazing. Glad to have you here. Second, we have Ms. Alli Schroder. She's joining us tonight from beautiful British Columbia, where she works with the BC Wildfire Service when she's not on the ball field pitching for the Canadian Women's National Team. Claudette Scrafford, Cooperstown resident Canadian, is in the manuscript archivist. Did I pronounce that right, Claudette? Archivist? At the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. Then Ashley Stephenson, who was inducted into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame within the class of 2024. Ashley was one of the members of the first Canadian women national team in 2004 and is now sitting in Dunedin, beautiful Florida, coaching the Blue Jays this spring. Congratulations on that, Ash. Amazing. And finally, we love to hate them and hate to love them. Our umpires, Lisa Turbitt, is one of Canada's most decorated umpires and has racked up a number of firsts in her career. So I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. And I will hand it back over to you, Linz.
Great. Okay, we're going to launch right in. We have some questions for our panelists, and then we'll go from there. So Stephanie, you've got the first question tonight.
I do. So tell us a bit about how you got to be where you are today and who inspired you to pursue baseball. And that second part of the question comes from Gloria Phillips, who is in attendance tonight. So let's start with Lisa.
Forgot to unmute. Sorry about that. maybe unlike some of the other stories of people, wanting to be a ball player, I don't think as a kid I thought, oh, I'm going to be an umpire, right? I grew up thinking I was going to be a Montreal Expo. Gary Carter was my favorite player. I literally had all kinds of Expo pictures on my wall. I had a Gary Carter authentic jersey. I think for my birthday, my friends got me one, Gary Carter #2. And so I grew up thinking for a while I was going to be a Montreal Expo. So my love for baseball started as a player. I literally fell in love with it. But by accident, I started umpiring because my younger brother was playing t-ball. There was no umpire. And then I did his game and I'm like, they're going to pay me money to go to baseball the days I'm not playing baseball. I'm in. So then began the love affair of starting to umpire. So for me, umpiring kind of came just out of my love of baseball. And then as I got older, I wasn't as good of a ball player as I was an umpire. So that's kind of where it started. And fun fact, when I was a teenager, I started umpiring in the Halton senior group. And I was only a kid and I had a great mentor, Ed Shaw of Burlington. But I umpired the St. Catharines Metros, who played out of Community Park, where Ellen was working with the St. Catharines Blue Jays and in the late 80s, early 90s, and eventually was the first all-female front office. So I never got to meet Ellen, but by connection, we were both at that park. So I'm super excited to be a part of it. And that was kind of a little connection to Ellen. She was there in the front office and I was sometimes umpiring there. So that's how I got into umpiring.
Okay, how about, who wants to go next? Alli?
Sure. I started playing baseball, I think I was 3 or 4 years old, playing t-ball at the time. And I think it was something for my parents to wear me out because I was playing just a whole bunch of different sports at the time. And then by the time I was 8, I had decided I really liked baseball and it was having more traction with me than soccer, track and field, the other sports I was playing. I think I was 10 when I made my first all-star team, Little League all-star team trail. And from there I was kind of like, okay, maybe surpassing some of the other boys at my age, and playing on rep teams as opposed to just house teams. So starting to really like it and like the competition a little bit more as well. Um, I live very close to the American border, so there's no Canadian teams for us to play. So I started playing down into the States when I was 12 or 13 on American Legion teams. We only have a U19 team here where I live, so I was playing on the U19 team when I was 13 with boys that were a lot stronger than me, for sure. They were getting ready to go play college baseball. So that really pushed me a lot. I think I was also 12 when I discovered women's baseball. My good friend and former teammate Ella Matucci introduced me to the idea of women's baseball. She quite literally lived down the road from me in tiny Fruitvale, in BC, and she just walked over to my house one night and said, I saw you playing at the park this weekend, you should go play women's baseball. So I started there playing with Team BC initially, and then down into the Team Canada ID camps in Cuba at the time. And when I was 13, I think, I got picked up for the Team Canada prospect team and then made the extended roster when I was 15 and the full roster the following year when I was 16 and went down to Florida to play in my first World Cup. And from there, just kind of took off. Kept playing with the boys down into the States until I was no longer able to because of my age. And once I graduated high school, I was still playing for Team Canada and signed with the Vancouver Island University Mariners in the CCBC as the first girl to play there. Continued playing 2 years there and kind of brings us to now where I'm still playing with the national team and just finished my second World Cup in Thunder Bay.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Let's go over to Claudette.
Well, I must say I'm amazed by all this, and I'm like, I want all your stuff in my archives right now because I have none of this in my archives. But I'm actually library and information management. I was an elementary school and high school librarian. In 99, I moved to Long Island from Alberta, and worked at the Helen Keller National Center for the Deafblind. And after 9/11, I actually took a break from Long Island. I went to Cooperstown, first time at the Hall of Fame, visited, had no idea. I mean, I had watched baseball, but I really wasn't a big baseball fan. But I liked it there. I liked the environment. So I applied to be their reference librarian and I got the job. And after being the reference librarian for 5 years, then I became the archivist. And yeah, and that's how I came into baseball. Really, it was totally, totally really accidental. I don't have any really big story. It was just that's just the way that things happened for me. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's go over to Ellen.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me with this great bunch of women. I got my start in baseball in 1981. I was a kid who just graduated from high school. I really wanted to be a police officer. My father was a police officer, and that's really what I wanted to do with my life. I knew from a very young age that's what I was going to do. And I was too young to join the police force at that time. At 18, he said, you know, go get a job, have fun, and I'll help you get in when you're 21. Well, the job ended up being an ad in the newspaper. It was for the Toronto Blue Jays. I went down and applied for it, and they tell me amongst all the candidates, I'm just over 6 feet tall, that I was the only one that could reach the top of the roster board to change the roster. Because in those days, we did not have computers. We had a big black menu board that had the punch-in letters. And so I was the person who every day had to move the roster around depending on what had happened the night before. Any injuries, any player moves, things along that line. So that's how I started in my career. And what I saw over the years that I was with the Blue Jays is the passion that everybody had for their job and for the game of baseball. And it really inspired me to stick with it. You know, I mean, there were some amazing people that I was working with. And I think about in the early 80s, there was a woman who was a beat writer for the Toronto Star, I believe. Her name was Allison Gordon. And she was in a field that there were no other women in at the time. And she put up with a lot of stuff that today we wouldn't see, and I hope we never see. But she basically lit that fire in me to say, I can do anything in this game. Just because I'm not a dude, I can do anything. So that's really what got me started, and I was very lucky to have some great teachers along the way. The best mentor I ever had was Pat Gillick, who is in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. He was a general manager who really taught the game of baseball, both on the field and off the field. And so that's kind of what I attribute my my career to, the success and the passion of the people that I worked with.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Ash.
Hi, everyone. I had similar dreams of playing in the MLB to Lise, except I wanted to be a Blue Jay. I was, I think, 7 years old when I watched Joe Carter hit the World Series winning home run, and I was like, I'm going to do that one day. And so I fell in love with ball at a really young age. My dad bought me a little red hot bat, and I swung it everywhere I could swing it. Went to the park, played ball, played t-ball, played a little bit of softball, eventually found baseball. And I just played because I love to play, never assumed I'd have any opportunity in it, just played because it was fun. And then, yeah, the women's national team, I heard about that and was lucky enough to attend the open tryout, got an invitation to Montreal for a top 40 camp, and made the first ever team in 2004 with my buddy Sodi, who's I see her on screen right now. Yeah, and then never really looked back. Was part of that program for 15 years as a player, best 15 years I could have ever asked for in ball. And then joined the coaching staff for 4 of the last 5 seasons. Loved the program, loved being part of the program. Yeah, created a ton of opportunity for me. And through that, got to build a little bit of a resume for myself, and then have transitioned to coaching, which is something I always wanted to do. I've taught for 17 years, and so teaching and coaching very similar. And so I transitioned to coaching through stars aligned, got an opportunity with the Blue Jays 3 years ago, spent the last 2 years in Vancouver. This year I'll be in Dunedin. And yeah, like my mom and dad were hugely influential. Lots of young girls didn't play ball back then. My mom didn't care. She let me do whatever I wanted to do that was active, that made me happy. My dad was a huge supporter. And they just, every time I said I wanted to do something, they said, sure, never pressured me to do it, but supported me to do it. Never felt like a weirdo doing it. They just thought it was fine. I could do it whatever I wanted, which I really appreciated from them. Looking back, it was probably rare for your girls. Like I didn't play with really any other girls growing up, but I never felt different, excluded, and my parents certainly never made me feel like I shouldn't have been there. And then as I got a little bit older, Sean O'Brien has been probably the most influential person in my like more elite career, I would say. He's been our like a blessing for Baseball Ontario women's program for the last 25 years. Just the best kind of guy you could ask for. Great coach, great dude. And every chance I get to say his name and say thanks to him, I take it. So thanks to Sean.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ashley. And I'm just noticing we're getting so many great questions in the chat below. So thank you so much. We will do our best to get to them if we have time today. And Lindsay, you're up.
Awesome. Before we move on to our second question, I already referenced it a little bit, I spoiled it, but I want to shout out a group that we have watching tonight. Abigail arranged a watch party for her team tonight, and we thought that was really cool. We have the Royal York 15U all-girls team watching this evening. So thank you very much for joining us, girls, and good luck with your upcoming season. So now on to our next question. We're going to start with Claudette on this one. What is one thing that you have overcome to achieve the success that you've had in your career?
I guess in related to baseball, when I started the Hall of Fame, I had some time to kind of learn about the history of baseball because I really didn't know a lot. And I've been there now almost 23 years. So we're talking 02, 01, 02. But when I started the Hall of Fame, I would hear a lot of my colleagues, quoting stats and this game from 1952 and this game and I was like, oh my gosh, like I should not even be here. Like I'm never going to know all these stats about players or teams or World Series, whatever. But I did have my library director. He's like, you know where to look it up. You can go and exactly where you can find the information. And so that was one of the major things that was hard for me, was like not knowing everything, especially as a reference librarian, where I would get 6,000 requests a year from everyday fans to the White House. And I was like, how am I going to be able to answer all these questions if I don't even know all this? But I knew where to look it up. And so that was one of the hardest things for me, was I didn't have to keep up with my colleagues and know all this stuff off the top of my head. I could just look it up, answer questions. And so that was probably the primary thing that working at the Hall of Fame that I had to overcome, was not needing to know everything in my head. I could find it.
All right. Thank you very much. Alli, over to you now.
I think for me, the biggest thing I've had to overcome is adversity and how to accept failure. I mean, anybody that's been in and around baseball knows it's a game of failure. And from a pretty young age, I was playing with people that were older than me, and often at higher playing levels than me, just because it was what was available to me in a small town. So accepting that every single game wasn't going to be a perfect game every time I played was something that was difficult for me. I struggled a lot with the mental game when I was younger. And yeah, Ash and Kate are both on my screen right now. I'm gonna start laughing. And how to deal with, like, it was so bad sometimes that somebody would get a hit off me and that would probably be the end of the game for me. I just couldn't pull myself out of the hole that I was in. But as I got older in the game, I kind of recognized, especially on the national team, that that wasn't going to be a mindset that would help me grow in the game and excel to the level that I want to be at, especially as a teammate. So overcoming that was huge for me, not just in my baseball career, but also in my personal career, working as a firefighter. Often similar to sports, you need to be able to overcome adversity, especially as a woman in a male-dominated field. So being able to overcome that on the baseball field and having mentors like Ash and Kate when I was that young was huge for me, and something that I bring into my personal life now as well.
Amazing. I understand you knew Amanda Asay as well, who we've inducted this year. So just wanted to mention that also. Okay, Ellen, over to you.
I think, having worked for 3 major league clubs, I was with the Blue Jays and then the Orioles and, the last 25 years with the Dodgers. Biggest thing to overcome for me has been ownership changes and management changes, particularly management changes. Often crews come in and they like their own people, which I totally get. There's something to having trust in people and being able to bring them with you when you change jobs from one club to another. But as somebody who works in the office and has kind of a specialized career, a specialized path, it's learning how to adapt and how to change and how to accept those changes. And I think I've been very fortunate in that I've been able to do that throughout my career. And I think that's why I'm in my 45th, I think, a year in baseball. And that it's been difficult, but it's also been rewarding because you learn every time you're dealing with new people, new ownership. You're learning so much, and you can pick on things that you've done with other organizations and bring them in as a fresh new idea, and they're open to it. But the key is learning how to accept the changes. So I think that's like number one thing for me as to something that I've had to kind of overcome each time we have a new management. Hopefully I'm locked in with these guys for a bit.
Brilliant. Okay, Ashley, your turn.
You mentioned the induction of Ace, a teammate of ours. Just a quick hello to Auntie Di. I see her on the call too. Lots of familiar faces. I saw her pop up there. Hello. Hopefully I'll see you there in June. Yes, I know. I knew it. I knew you were not missing it. I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see you. For me, honestly, like Shorty was saying, there's so much adversity. It's just like overcoming self-doubt, just having a belief that you can get through hard things and creating resilience. The game is really, really tough when you play. It doesn't get any easier when you coach. And so just having a belief that you belong. I listened to Cassie Campbell. I'm a big hockey fan too. So Cassie Campbell has done amazing things for women in sport, not only as a player, but then onto a broadcasting career. And now she's heavily involved in the PWHL. And she had a saying years ago that she used to tell us, and it was just literally believe you belong. And whether that's a player on the field believing you belong, and maybe you're playing with a lot of boys and not necessarily girls, or you're playing with people older than you because that's the only opportunity in your area. Or maybe there's just really very few opportunities for you to play and you've got to seek them out and you got to seek out people who are willing to help you. Believe that you belong in that space. And if you want to be there, you deserve to be there. And for me as a coach, same thing. I'm the only female uniform coach in the Toronto Blue Jays organization. I clearly look different than everybody else who wears a uniform around our complex. And sometimes it is challenging to believe that I belong in that space because other people don't look like me. Every single one of our players has never been coached by a female before. So just learning to build relationships with players who are not used to building relationships with a female coach. There's challenges that I face that other people will never face just because of my gender. And so just having the belief that I belong in that space, that I've worked really hard to earn my place in that space. And I'm not saying it's easy to do, but that's a motto that I've used for the last little while. I heard it, 15, 20 years ago. And I really try to carry that with me.
Okay, thank you very much. And Lisa.
Well, some tremendous responses from everyone here. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm an umpire. So there's a challenge in itself, right? You know, I don't have a team backing me up. I don't have other coaches. I don't have other staff. And sometimes the challenges are on the field, but early on, sometimes they were with my partners. So, you know, that in itself is a bit of a challenge. For me, the challenges came from opportunities in training. So I'll speak to a couple of them. The first one came, I mentioned earlier that I started umpiring by accident, my brother's t-ball game. My brother's a bit younger than me, so I did the game, you know, kind of by accident. And the coach said to my dad after, I think your daughter did just as good a job as the umpires we had all year. And so I was really proud of that, right? So I'm sure I was telling everyone what to do, and because I was used to playing and whatnot. So Ash is laughing because she can see it. So because I umpired Ash since she was a teenager, her and Kate growing up. Kate and I are from the same hometown. So, but I went to the next year because I wanted to learn how to umpire the pitching. Like I want in action. I want to umpire this. And they actually sent me home. They said that I wasn't the right age, even though there were boys there, including my cousin. And I'm like, I'm good. Like, you should have saw me. Like, I rocked this t-ball thing. So I had to do another year of t-ball, and then I went back the next year, and I'm like, yeah, I'm here, I'm ready to go. And they're like, no, we changed the age. And I was like gutted, right? I was like, what? Like, I'm ready for this pitching. I got to do t-ball again. I used to make $3 a game when I was umpiring t-ball. And I've told this story to so many people, and they're like, why did you go back? Like, when they told you no twice. And I'm like, I was going to do it. Like, I tried to tell them that I was good. And I just thought if they saw and knew that I was good and on top of the game, because I didn't get it that I was a girl, that's why they wanted me to go home. I'm like, no, I'm good. I got like perfect on the quiz. So back again I go, and Ash is just laughing at me because she could just see that tenacity. And I go, hey, everybody, I'm here for the clinic. And I didn't even stop at the desk. I just went right in and sat down. I'm like, okay, I'm here. Let's go. Because I was not leaving. And my dad said to me, do you want me? Because this is like 1981, right? This is my 45th season along with Ellen. It wasn't a time where my dad went in and said, hey, like, you got to let my daughter do this. They were like, well, she's going to get hurt and this isn't for her and due to like all these sort of passive aggressive reasons why I shouldn't do it. And I said, oh no, Dad, you don't need to wait because I'm staying this time. And in I go at like 14. Now I'm 14 or whatever by the time I get there. And for me, that was the biggest challenge. They just even wouldn't let me do it. So, and then if I'm going to do it, if I fail, okay, fine, you can say you're right. But you didn't even let me do it. So I do reflect on that. Like, if I look back, what if I never went back? Like, I've accomplished some really cool stuff. And as Holly mentioned earlier, a lot of firsts. I would have missed all that if I let them tell me I can't do that. And this kind of is the theme, right? I wanted to umpire, inter-county. I wanted to umpire this. And they're like, oh, well, you can't. I'm like, well, how did that guy get to do it? Like, what is he doing? I want to do that so I can get there. So for me, that's the obstacles. Like, the baseball community is small, the umpire community is smaller. So how did I break in there and then overcome those obstacles, get the training I need, get the experience I need, to be able to do it. So for me, that was kind of the biggest challenge. And I'm glad I went back. You're meeting all these amazing women here who have all kinds of perseverance. And certainly all of these jobs wouldn't happen without hard work and perseverance, which we're all talking about. But certainly if I hadn't persevered, I would have went home and I wouldn't be here tonight. So I'm kind of glad that I went back.
Us too. Back to you, Stephanie.
Okay, next question for everyone. What is one of your proudest achievements in your baseball career? And let's start with Ashley.
Oh, easy one for me based on last summer. Just being inducted to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, like bar none. I mean, like I said earlier, I played because I loved it. Like, I really love the game. I love to practice. We used to have like 4-hour practices, and like, it was the best. Like, I loved it so much. And I never played thinking ever that there'd be a chance of any type of like recognition or anything. I played because it was just like, there was so many positive things that it did for my life. And yeah, and it was amazing. Met the best people, had the best experiences. it changed my life. Playing baseball and getting an opportunity to play on our national team changed my life. And that is like, and I'm not making that up. Like, it was unbelievable what it did for me, and how much like gratitude I have for the game and for the people that I met in it. And then, yeah, when Scott called me last year to say that I was going in the hall, like I was speechless. And then when I hung up, I actually had tears in my eyes, which doesn't happen often. And like, just really proud that I endured for so long. That's something that I really loved and that wasn't easy to get to, and that, that's going to be there forever. And I really hope that it, other young girls have an opportunity to look and say, like, this is something that I can do. And I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying like the red carpet is laid out and it wasn't for us, but like, things that are worth it are rarely really easy. And this was like, that was easily the highlight of my career, and, a day that I won't ever forget.
That is incredible. Thank you so much. Claudette, what about you?
As far as my baseball career goes, I guess for me, I started at the Hall of Fame as a reference librarian, but in 07, I was asked to be the manuscript archivist. And I'm the first dedicated archivist at the Hall of Fame since it opened. And being Canadian and a woman, I was just like, wow, like, okay, I think I can do this. So that always stuck with me when I tell people I'm the first dedicated, and they're like, really? Yeah, other people process, don't get me wrong, but nobody was really dedicated to just doing archival work. So that was always a proud moment for me, like when I think back on it. And now it's like going to be 23 years. And I guess another thing that makes me proud is because I do get to meet and process personal papers, organizational papers. I process a lot of things. And Ellen, when you said you were at the Dodgers, I just met with Peter O'Malley on Monday because I'm processing the Dodger papers, Walter O'Malley's papers. And so Peter came to the Hall of Fame to kind of see where we were at and what was happening with that, and other things. So I love it when I process things and the family or the person or somebody comes and is really appreciates what you've done, and they are like, wow, like, this is just great. And other researchers look at it, and I love that. I love that I can put this information out there, make it public, and people kind of really appreciate what you've done. And of course, lastly, I must say, when Bob Elliott received his award at the Hall of Fame, and he called me out on it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I was working and I'm like, what? He said my name? Where am I? So that was like a really proud moment for me too, because I love Bob. He's great. So, but yeah, I would say that those are probably some of my proudest moments in my baseball career.
That's wonderful. And I love Bob too. So thank you for sharing. How about you, Lisa? We heard a little bit, but I want to hear more.
I always find this question hard because I feel like, it's like, choose your favorite child, right? Like, which one of these awesome, I've got to do some amazing things in some amazing places with amazing people. Like, how do I pick one? I mean, I umpired Kate Nash at the very first Women's World Cup. I got to do the gold medal game. I've umpired 3 Women's World Cups. I've been the umpire director of 2 plus the qualifier. Super exciting because the qualifier and the last Women's World Cup, we had all women officials on the field. I was the umpire director. I'm the only umpire director with WBSC for baseball. And so, stuff in Baseball Ontario, last summer we had all women for our Ontario Summer Games girls division. Like, there's just lots of things that I'm super proud of. But for me, the biggest thing was the Classic. So I had met Larry Young from MLB, who's one of the most amazing people and umpire years ago. He'd seen me umpire. In 2020, he called me and said, will you come and umpire at the Classic? And I'm like, what? I'm the girl who got sent home 2 times from the clinic when I was like 11 and 12 and 13. And so for me, like, it was this validation of all this work and like baseball has brought some of the highest highs and some of the lowest lows, right? So I was like, oh, this is like amazing. And of course, I go in 2020 and I'm in Arizona and I'm going to have the opening plate of the whole tournament. And COVID, and we all have to come home. And I'm like, gutted. I didn't actually get to umpire. And I thought, oh, I was like so close. So in 2022, Larry called me back and said, we want you to come. And it was in Panama. And I did actually get to umpire, which was amazing. You know, I'm definitely was on the twilight of my career. It's something that I wish I'd had the opportunity when I was younger. And that's one of the things that I'm so passionate about, is trying to create pathways for other women, girls and women, that, you know, I didn't have. I didn't meet another umpire till I met Tasha Haynes, who's on here too, till I was in my late 20s, right? And I started when I was 11. So going to the Classic was amazing. I didn't have any flack from anyone. Like, I guess they figured because I was there that I could just do my job. It was amazing. So MLB, they have a locker room. It's shared for us, but I had my own little baby locker room. Like, it had like my whole locker and my name and the whole thing. And they're like, is this okay? And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I've never had it before. So I go out and I do the game, and I've got the big game belly. I know athletes, you know, you have that feeling before a game. Umpires do too, right? We want to go out, we want to do well, and, you know, the world is watching. And so I go out there and it's rainy and it's blah. It's the very first guy I ring out on strikes, and then we end the inning on a double play with, I have a big play at the plate. And I was like, oh, welcome to the game, Lisa. So the game ended up being really close, and I don't think they expected it to be close. And then partway through the game, the clubby comes out, and he had given me a key to my locker room before the game. And he said, I have to give you this key to the locker room. And I'm like, you already gave me a key to the locker room. He goes, oh, no, your other locker room flooded. We had to move your locker room to another place. So this is the key to the new place. And I was thinking, how'd they move the locker room? Mind you, this game took 3 hours. I thought he had lots of time to move stuff all over the stadium. And then I was like, okay, well, thanks. And put it back in my pocket. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to go back to this biggest game of plate of my entire life and not worry about the locker room flooding or where my stuff is later, and I'll figure it out. So just, you know, having to focus and go back to the game after I thought it was funny. But in the moment, I was like, I can't think about the locker room right now. So the game went on, and when I come off, it like, I can't even, like, it was like I'd won the game, even though I wasn't really playing. So for me, that was the greatest experience. You know, Larry and all the people who made that happen, who believed that I could do it. For me, was the single greatest thing, because it really just showed, given the opportunity to train, given the opportunity to develop and to do things, that women can do this, right? So I think that was the biggest thing. So I'm just glad that he believed in me to give me that chance. And I hope in the future we see more women doing it. So lots of favorite children, but if you make me pick one, that was the greatest.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for that awesome story, and congrats. That was so cool. Next is Ellen.
Well, there's so many moments, you know, you could say, I mean, I've been so fortunate to witness, you know, the highest highs, and then have the game break your heart too. But I really think that my proudest times in baseball were when I was operating a minor league club. I was early in my career. I think I had spent 7 years with the Blue Jays when the GM asked me if I would consider going to the minor leagues. I'd been to a few minor league games, but I really hadn't paid much attention other than to the game. So I didn't really know what I was getting into. And I think that, you know, that experience made me understand you know, the coaching world, the scouting world, the relationships between players and scouts, and then scouts to coaches, and front office, and the community, and how the players had to interact in the community. It just really created an awareness that it took baseball to a whole new level for me. And that's the beauty of baseball. You can enjoy it at so many different levels. You know, my mother once asked me, why do they always run the one way? Why do they not run the other way? You know, so it's this, baseball is this game that we can love at so many different levels. And I think that my time in the minor leagues really taught me what the game was about, and how we can love the game at so many different levels, as a fan, as a coach, as a scout, as a player. You know, it's just, I think that's the time that I can say I felt, when I look back at it now, I felt like I did my best work, is probably when I was in the minor leagues, and learning alongside the ball players and learning how to do sales and marketing, which I hadn't done before. I was mostly focused on baseball administration, but it really was a great learning experience for me. And I really look back now. I didn't realize at the time, you know, it was late 80s, early 90s, and I hired an assistant general manager. I wanted somebody with my weaknesses to complement, you know, what I did. So I hired somebody in the sales area. I had the administration area. And then we needed an official scorer. I hired a woman as an official scorer. I hired a woman as an assistant in our office. And I didn't realize that I created an all-women staff, you know, because it was not done with any conscious bias. It was just a matter of who's the best for these jobs. And at that time, I plugged in people who I thought were the best. So looking back, the opportunities that the women had at that time, I think that's something to be proud of now.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you for sharing that. That was wonderful. And again, last but not least, Alli.
I think it's hard to pinpoint one memory or accomplishment. Like Ash and Kate would both agree that any day you get to wear the Canada jersey on any international stage or any capacity, whether it's like a friendly series or a World Cup stage, it's huge accomplishment. And like I'm super proud and grateful for the opportunities that I've had playing for Team Canada. But signing with the CCBC when I was fresh out of high school was a huge accomplishment for me. I was the first female in the league history to sign and play, I should say. I didn't just ride the bench. I did get innings. And now when I look back, I was the first girl, but there's probably 3 or 4 girls playing in the CCBC now. So I mean, like that's what it's all about, and that's the goal. I was certainly signing for myself and because I always had the goal of playing college baseball. But to be able to look back now and see that it influenced other girls to play college baseball in Canada, maybe they had just not even known that that was an opportunity because it's so common that we see guys go to the States to play college baseball. That's super exciting for me. And I know at the time that I signed, my current coach had been talking to the Mariners coach, and he basically just said, like, we have somebody that has a hard fastball, good slider, keeps hitters off balance. Do you want them? And my head coach at the Mariners said yes. And only at that point did my current coach say, oh, it's a girl, by the way. So I was super lucky to have that two-way street with both my coaches, that they just respected me as a player. And that was my goal. Like, it picked up a lot of traction when I signed with the CCBC, and I told pretty much every news or media outlet that I just wanted to be seen as a player. I was going into a league with guys that have been playing for like 5 years for the same schools, so I didn't want it to be a big thing. I just wanted to be another player that was coming to play for the team and contribute to the team that I was going to. But the biggest piece for me now when I look back is that there are girls that followed that pathway, and they're doing the thing as well, which is super exciting.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. Ashley, what you said was believing that you belong just keeps coming up, you know, through and through. And it's so inspiring, so very inspiring. Lindsay, I think you're up next.
All right, thank you. So Ellen, we're going to start with you on this one. What advice or tips do you have for young women who may be hoping to pursue a future in baseball?
I think the first thing is to recognize that anything is possible. Any job is available. You just need to be passionate about it. You need to really hone your skills and be the best that you can be at it. The one thing about baseball is we have every kind of business opportunity as well as baseball opportunity available for women. You know, whether you're in the marketing side, the finance side, athletic trainers, strength and conditioning coaches, coaches on the field. I'd love to see more women in scouting, but I think that there's opportunities for women today that weren't there 40 years ago. And I think that the key is developing kind of a niche on what you're good at, what you're passionate about. And that's the key. You have to find where your passion is, and then you can channel it and you can get a job in sports. It doesn't have to be baseball. It can be football, hockey. I mean, so many other things. But There are jobs out there for us, and we're capable and we're ready and we've arrived. So that's what I have to say to the young women.
All right, amazing. Okay, Claudette, your turn.
I mean, I would agree with everything that Ellen has said, and I agree. I used to mentor like interns or other library science students, and I'd be like, don't just think about libraries. Like, there's other things out there. You could just have to know what you like, where you're going, and just kind of see, you know, where your passion is, where you want to go with your career. Um, you have to believe in yourself, you know, even if people are like, I don't know if you can do this, you just, yes, I know I can do this, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep after it until I get what I want. And I think also, like, if a door closes, there's always another door. Even if you have to push on it or pull on it a little bit, that door is going to open. And you just have to believe that it will open. And that's what I have found in my career is like, if I just push on that door a little bit or knock a little bit louder than I should, I'll get to where I need to get. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, next up, Alli.
I pretty much come back to the same thing every time I get this question, and it's that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. In my work life and my career, there's always been people that are more talented than me, but not saying that it'll be easy, but there's literally nothing holding you back from being the hardest worker in every room. That's something that's fully within your control, and if you want it bad enough, you can always make it happen. You just need to believe in yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, Lisa, over to you.
I think my biggest thing is don't let other people limit your goals or dreams, right? So if I'd listened to all those people when I was a kid, this isn't for you, it's not for girls, you're going to get hurt, it's going to be hard, et cetera, et cetera. All these people giving me these limiting messages. I was an educator for 30 years. I worked in the library, Claudette. And that's something that I've tried to bring, you know, my baseball life to school. Ash and I teach in the same school board, is that don't let people limit your dreams or goals. It doesn't have to be baseball, like it's whatever. Don't let someone else tell you, well, that's going to be too hard. You know, like Alli said, I'm going to put in the work. Well, that's not for you or for girls. Well, I'm going to do it. So that's one of the things. Don't let other people limit you or limit your goals. Sure, it's going to be hard work. Sure, you're going to have to persevere, but don't just say, oh, well, they said I can't do it. That's that. Because if you look at this right here, there's like some amazing accomplishments on this call right now from all these women. And nobody said it was easy, right? So hard work and perseverance. I think Ellen touched upon it a little bit, that now in sports more than ever, we're starting to see more people who look like us. And, you know, it is going to be hard, but maybe try to find a mentor, or like Ellen said, try to find a niche or something that you're strong at and that let your skills shine. And a little plug for the OBA, we have in Ontario Women's Umpire Network. So you can go online, you can sign up. Tasha Haynes, who's on the call, we try to mentor or connect girls and women. We didn't meet other women till we were in our late 20s, but try to connect them. We do webinars, training for stuff. So if you're an umpire, there's, you know, some connection, but all these other things everybody's talking about, I'm sure there's an internship or some information or a course. So try to tap into that because it may make it a bit easier. And I think my final point is, you know, the game is changing, right? And now more than ever, I mean, for a long time, we didn't see anyone on the field who looked like any of us. And now more and more underrepresented groups are falling in love with baseball like we did. So don't worry if you're not the first, don't worry if nobody else has done it. Or you're not the first, then go for it anyway. So just, that's my big thing. Don't let people limit your dreams. You know, Ash and I talked about wanting to be an Expo and a Blue Jay. I didn't quite make it as an Expo, but she ultimately became a Blue Jay. So, you know, don't let anyone limit your dreams. So dream big.
Oh, cool. And now to the Blue Jay, Ashley, over to you.
I mean, I would echo all of these. The only thing I would add, I guess, is surround yourself with good people. Like people who genuinely believe in you, who support you, who are happy for your successes. You know, like the road is not easy, but it's certainly really fulfilling. And I don't know how many times I've called teammates or relied on teammates like Sodi and like a lot of other really great people that I played with in Ontario and throughout Canada, but also coaches. Like, there are people out there who want to help you succeed, and you just have to find them. And sometimes that's challenging, and sometimes it's hard to find teammates if you're doing really great things who might not be a little bit jealous or something like that, or might not question, why are you working harder? Or why do you want to do more? But find people who genuinely support you and who really want you to do well. And then lean on those people in, like, when good times, to celebrate the good times, the rough times to celebrate the rough times. Like, it was my dream to coach the Canadian women's national team. I got to do that a couple of years ago, just in a 5-game friendly. Sodi was with me, and we got off to a rough start, lost our first 2 games, and we finally won game 3. And it was my first ever win as a manager. And the first person I saw was Sodi. And she wasn't like dogpiling on the players. Like, she came right to me, gave me a huge hug, knew what that game like meant to me personally. And I knew what it meant to her. And it was really a special moment for us. So find people that really believe in you, who want to support you, who want really good things for you, because it's not an easy road. All those other things are really important too, but having a great support system is needed. So that's what I would say.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. So let's try and take a couple of questions from the audience. We have a few minutes, I think, to do that. We did have some submitted in advance as well. So thank you everyone who did that. One question that some of you have touched on a little bit, and I wondered if the rest of you would like to elaborate a bit further, is what kind of internship opportunities are out there for girls who are interested in exploring a career in sports organizations? And that comes from Abigail. So any internships or learning opportunities that you can share to some of our younger listeners? Let's start with Claudette.
I would put a plug in for, we have an internship at the Hall of Fame, the Steel internship, which we take interns, we take college students probably around anywhere from 19 to 23, depending on the year. And they get experience for 10 weeks in various departments in the Hall of Fame, including all our induction, our classic, whatever events we happen to have. And it's a well-rounded, they do community, they do public speaking, there's all kinds, and that really gives you a chance to network as well, not only with people at the Hall of Fame, but we bring in guest speakers for the internship. So I think it really gives a well-rounded career opportunity for a lot of our interns who come to the Hall of Fame.
Okay, very cool. I'm sorry, Thea also submitted a very similar question to that. So Thea as well. Lisa, you talked about some of the opportunities for female umpires. Did you want to expand on that any further?
Sure. Baseball Ontario, Baseball Canada, like, they have lots of, opportunities here, because you don't jump right to MLB or the World Baseball Classic. We have lots of camps. We have, last year, I actually umpired Ash in the very first girls division of the summer games in 1996. And girls baseball is back in Ontario. And this year it'll be historic, because in the Canada Games, for the first time, they'll have a girls division in baseball, which creates opportunities for female officials, which is super exciting and amazing. So there's all, if you love baseball, like I did, it's a great way to get a job, make money. There's also opportunity to go to camps. Like, if you're thinking, hey, maybe, I do like this umpiring thing. MLB has camps. If that's something you're interested in, you can reach out to me. My email's on the Baseball Ontario website, but you can go to a camp. Like, if umpiring is your thing, there's a lot of great opportunities in officiating.
Okay, very good. Ashley, anything you want to add to that question?
I'm not sure if people are looking at the chat, but Sherry has added a point about the Take the Field program. So it's a a program led by MLB, their diversity program, trying to get more women involved in the game. In particular, I went to it twice. You do have to apply. But I went to it twice and had an opportunity to meet some people there. And honestly, before I went to those two conferences, I still didn't know if it was a realistic opportunity for me. I had been teaching for 14 years already, and I didn't know if I was ready to transition, didn't know if I was good enough to coach at that level and all that. And it was a great opportunity to meet a bunch of people and to start conversations. And that's ultimately how I started the conversation with the Blue Jays through that program. And they've been excellent. They've really work with me in creating a transition from teaching to coaching. But it was through that program. So there are certain programs, and I do know that each team, Alan can probably talk to this too, has different internships. Like we always have like medical internships or strength and conditioning interns and stuff like that. Now, often they are university graduates looking to go into that program. It's not like they're high school students or something like that, but there are internships available. We have some every single year, dietitians. So not just, and I know Ellen talked about like there's so many parts of the game that you can get involved with, not just coaching, but there's some coaching elements. But all of those other areas, there are different internships posted. And I think every single MLB team has all of those. And she's nodding, so I don't think I've totally lost it. But they are out there.
Ellen, do you want to speak to that any further?
Sure. Major League Baseball has a really strong DEI program, and I know that the Dodgers, we are continuing our DEI program. We hire fellows who are in their last year of college and going into the workforce. We probably look for 18 to 20 fellows in every aspect of the game, including on field. And then we also have interns that are, usually college level kids still going to school. So we hire about 20 kids in that program as well. And that's just with our club. Most clubs, including ours, will post on teamworkonline.com. It's a great website for any jobs in sports. So I highly recommend that people take a look at that. DEI programs usually post somewhere around December for the upcoming summer and fall. So right now we're just locking in the last of our interns for this summer, but it's something that's out there for next year too.
Okay, thank you. And Alli, anything you want to add to that conversation?
I just play. I've never worked in so I don't have an answer for that.
All right, fair enough. Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more question from the audience, and then we'll have to wrap it up. Steph, are there any that you wanna pick out?
That is a good question. I might need your help. I'm navigating through my screen here.
That's okay.
Pick a good one.
I see one here that we can ask.
Okay, yes.
Okay. All right, from Jay. How can we get Canadian universities to support women's baseball and add teams to youth sports? Alli, maybe we can start with you on this one since you have the most recent experience with this.
Yeah, I mean, I never played in youth sports, so I don't know what the parallel is with CCBC, but I think that with like any women's sports, it's representation, and having more females wanting to play college baseball. That's the biggest thing, is that we still see a lot of people going down to the States to play college baseball, whether that's girls or boys. But if there were more females that were interested in staying in Canada to play college baseball, I think that would be the first step. And once there's that interest and representation, I think that from there would probably look like having club teams at universities. It's not an easy jump to get like new teams to join the governing bodies of leagues for college sports in Canada. But I think above anything, just having more women wanting to play college baseball and sticking with baseball instead of transferring to softball as well is a big thing. So, I mean, like, that's kind of all I have to say for now, is that staying in Canada, for one, would be huge. Having more women playing baseball at Canadian universities.
Mm-hmm. I think seeing the representation that folks like yourself are bringing is helpful on that front. And Alli was featured recently in See Her, Be Her, the documentary and the book as well, which you should all check out. Ashley, same question, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. For me, it's like developing from the ground up, right? Like if I think about university programs, for me, that's like closer to the top of the pyramid. And like there just has to be a base that's so strong in order to get to the top. Like we can't flip it upside down and hope that it's going to stand tall. So like if I ask people, and you've seen in the chat, people say like, oh, I never had an opportunity to play baseball, or I had to drive hours, or I had to play against boys. Like I think the development in our own country at a grassroots level has to get better. Like we have to have opportunities for a young girl to go to a local organization and to play rookie ball with her friends, not to always have to play with the boys or whatever, but have a real league in areas. And if it starts regionally or something like that, I'm not a genius. I don't know how to get it started, but there's got to be like blueprints out there. But opportunities for girls to play. And then we start building a massive grassroots base. And now the ones who want to continue and play at a really like a rep level and then a provincial level. And once you see those numbers increase, like universities, they're businesses, you know, it's the reality, they're businesses. And then there's opportunity as you move up the pyramid. But you can't just like start from nowhere and think we're going to have universities that just start programs. Like there has to be enough players, there has to be enough good players. Getting involved with the Canada Games, like being reintroduced to the Canada Games is absolutely massive for our sport. That's a huge step. Like Shorty said, we lose girls to softball all the time. And we lose girls to softball all the time because there's opportunity. There's more opportunity for them to play. They can play locally. They can go to college and play. There's tons of rep teams around. They don't have to drive 8 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours to play on a team, right? Like the opportunities are there in softball, and they're not quite there in baseball, or certainly as easy. And so opportunity, that's why people switch, right? They might love baseball, but the opportunities are there in softball. So building a grassroots level is so critical. And I know that falls on local organizations, that falls on all of our PSOs, that falls on our NSO. Like there's lots of people who have to get involved and have to work together to make that happen. When that happens, it grows and it grows and it grows. And now you have an opportunity to have really great provincial programs, really great local rep programs where kids can play. You have great house league programs where people who just want to play once or twice a week get an opportunity to fall in love with the game and still play. But there's opportunities for everybody in the game. And then there's an opportunity for it to grow to a youth sport. But if we're looking at starting at the top and going down, that's a business model that doesn't work. It has to be from the ground up. And I know I'm preaching to the choir for who, like, because everybody on here is a huge supporter of women in baseball. But the more we talk about it, the more champions we have in our game, and the more people that we want to help and make a difference, and the more people who are willing to get involved, the better it is for everybody. And so I think, you know, more things like this just bring communities together, and then give opportunities for people to share stories and, you know, and fall in love with the game again and want to help out is really important. But for me, the base of the pyramid just has to be so much bigger before we can get to the top.
Absolutely. Ellen, anything you would like to add to that?
And I think these ladies have covered it.
I think you covered it beautifully as well. Lisa, anything you want to add?
No, Ash nailed it. But if that happens, then I'm happy to help support by getting all female officials to do it too. So
I hear you know some.
Starting from the baby girls, right? Because I have a lot of young girls that I mentor too.
Cool.
Like brand new. I did my first ever rookie ball game. They didn't even have rookie ball when I was a kid, but during COVID, I used that time. There wasn't any high baseball, and I worked with kids. And so for me, it was kind of going back. So I love that. So we have a very big base of see it, be it, right? When you see other women umpiring on the field, this creates an atmosphere to grow it. I did some girls baseball, and a girl come up to me and in the game, and she said, I made Tasha go with me the next year after this. I said, we have to go umpire these leagues now so these girls see us. And she said to me, you're a girl like me. And I'm like, yeah. And she said, I didn't think we were allowed to be the umpire. Mind blown, right? Because she'd never seen a woman umpire. She'd only ever seen male umpires. And I said, well, we can be the umpire. She goes, well, good. I'm going to be an umpire now too. And so if you are bringing them to the field, if you're building it, I'll bring them to come and officiate. So, because I think it's, it's amazing. And for me, I traditionally had only umpired men most of my career. And when this women's baseball thing took off and I got to go onto the field with women athletes and women coaches, like at the World Cup, there was no conversation about, oh, we're women, because we were all women. It was about the baseball. And so, which is what we all love, right? So if that happens, Ash, I'm behind you and I'll be helping to lead the charge with our officials.
Wonderful. Claudette, any last thoughts on that question?
I guess listening to everybody, I think of it more from a historical or archival position because that's where I'm from. And I do have a couple of collections at work on women umpires. And I guess when I look at my archival material, and of course, I always try to find the Canadian aspect of things because that's who I am. I see a lot just from a perspective of what Ashley was saying is that a lot of the players are either like from Vancouver or somewhere in British Columbia because they have less winter there. So a lot of them play longer and they do end up going to the States because Florida, wherever it happens to be. But on the other side, I like to go to Cape Cod and watch Cape Cod baseball, which is one of the premier leagues there. And I would love to see like a women's team going there instead of just men's, even if it's just 1 or 2 weeks as a little tournament, because we may not have enough teams. I don't know, but we may not have enough teams to go for a full summer. But it would be kind of nice to see women going to these premier tournaments and participating in them.
Brilliant. Okay. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for questions this evening, but I want to thank all of our guests for joining us tonight and sharing their stories and their advice with us. It has been such a pleasure to hear from you all and learn. I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie now, who has something pretty exciting for us.
I do, and I'm going to surprise you, Lindsay, real quick. I wanted to thank you for putting all of this together. You are an inspiring woman in baseball. I'm proud to co-host with you. I couldn't even figure out how to find a question in the chat. So you are awesome, not just because of that, but because of all that you do. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for everything. So we have a giveaway. This is a stunning, beautiful Gamer XLE Rawlings glove. All right. And we did a random draw and the winner is Jen Hall. Jen, are you on? Jen Hall, congratulations. This belongs to you. We'll get all the details. And then
I'm
also
so excited. I know Jen. I played ball with her.
Yay! And then we have a little giveaway too, just a little goodie surprise pack. So congratulations. All the women here tonight are amazing, incredible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you again, Lindsay, for doing this and for inviting me to be a part of this. I am so inspired.
I am as well. I am going to get Holly back on screen here. Holly is our board representative for the evening, who is going to just do a little wrap up for us tonight.
Yes.
Thank you,
So
Holly.
I'm gonna echo Steph's, and I think usually you kind of save your big thank yous at the end. I'm gonna do it at the beginning. So this is group participation for Lindsay. So you can either jazz hand or a round of applause for everything that she did to get this together. So I don't know. I didn't see some jazz hands over there in British Columbia there, Alli. Come on now. There, thank you. But no, Linz, this was awesome. So thank you so much for doing this. Thank you to all our guests. I know we're in all kinds of different time zones, different weather. Appreciate everybody taking the time to join us for this. I know we have some great sponsors too. Rawlings, of course, a huge sponsor of the hall. TD Bank is one of our big sponsors this year, so we thank them as well. And we are non-for-profit, so we never hurts to put a little plug in, whether it's a donation that you can make. But our biggest thing that we would love to see people is we, you know, and I know Scott Crawford is hanging off to the side, and I'm sure if I asked him the question out loud, he could tell me how many memberships we have, but it's a very large male membership, and it would be great to see some female membership, or to grow that as well. Its lowest is $60, and then we got that room full of kids. They get the student discount. So I mean, please go on to our site. Lindsay has it up there. Love to see our membership grow for this year. We have some great things coming up the hall. It's open next week for March break. Normally it's closed this time of year, so Lindsay and Scott will be there to show everybody around. There's an amazing All-American Girls Baseball League display in there in the back corner, a little Peaches uniform. So if you get a chance, anybody that lives, I know it's a 2-hour drive up from the GTA, but we'd love to see you come up and visit Scott and Lindsay. They're lonely over the winter. They love to have some company. I can tell you that right now. And really, you know, that's, I think all we want to say is thank you. And thanks for being a leadership in female sport and baseball. And we touched on every aspect over this call. It wasn't just players or coaches, it was a whole raft of people. So we thank you very, very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Holly. That does it for us tonight, folks. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you to our guests, and happy almost baseball season. Hopefully we'll see you all around the Hall of Fame this summer. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.